What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on this post that was asked, right? Somebody asked Dennis Rodman about their style of play back in the days when they play and would they be able to play today, right? And so now, Dennis Rodman said when asked how the Bad Boys Detroit Pistons would play in today's era, we wouldn't play, we'd be in jail. Bill Laimbeer and I would be serving life sentences, right? We'd be in jail. That's what Dennis Rodman said. Now, I didn't really like the style of the Detroit Pistons back in the day because I just thought their style of play was boring. They was big on defense. They was holding teams to like 80-something points a game. And the NBA was very, very physical back in those days, right? And the Detroit Pistons took that physicality to a whole nother level. You had Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, what's his name? Vinny the Microwave. I forgot. I don't know if it was Vinny Johnson. Isaiah Thomas. Who else? Joe Dumars, right? Those were like, John Sally was. It just was. Everybody just was. It was just defense, right? And so they did repeat back in the day. I didn't like their style, but like I said, the league back then was just so much more physical. And so I think that's why the Detroit Pistons, like I said, they took it to a whole nother level. They saw like the teams before them, they saw how physical Boston was. Then they saw how physical the Lakers was and a couple other teams around the league. And then Detroit just took it to a whole nother level, right? Now, I like the physicality of the game, but I would never want to see like that style of basketball come back. And I don't think that style of basketball would never sell today, because it was boring to me. And I think it was boring to a lot of people, to have teams only score like 80 or 90 points a game, and a whole bunch of fouls. Detroit was so deep, they had so many fouls to use. They just would beat up on you the whole game, and just wear you down. And it was boring. In my opinion, it was boring. But yeah, they wouldn't be able to, like Dennis Rodman, especially in my Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn, they definitely couldn't play today. They was giving up some hard fouls, almost to the point where like people was afraid to like leave their feet, because you didn't know if one of these guys was going to undercut you or they was going to hit you and knock you down. I remember, who was it? Scottie Pippen. Dennis Rodman fouled him so hard and left like a real big knot on his forehead. And Scottie Pippen never got over that. Even when Dennis Rodman went to play with the Chicago Bulls, Scottie Pippen still was holding that against him. He just did not really, he didn't like Dennis Rodman, and he ain't like the way that, like what Dennis Rodman had done to him. And so it took a long time for Scottie Pippen to get over that, once they got on the same team and they started winning championships together. Scottie Pippen probably saw Dennis Rodman as a, as a necessary evil almost, because, Dennis Rodman, he came from that bad boy era, and Scottie Pippen didn't, he didn't appreciate the way Dennis Rodman played. But definitely Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer, boy, oh boy, these guys, I didn't even really consider them basketball players for real. They just was out there just to beat people up. For real. It was just so yeah, they definitely wouldn't be able to play in today's NBA. And you could kind of see, but like by the time the late 90s, but let me see, by the time the mid 90s came around, their style of basketball play had been ushered out, hard fouls. The refs was no longer allowing those hard fouls. You could get ejected for the things that they was doing. And this was back in the 90s. Because let me see, like in the late 80s is when Detroit Pistons won their championships. I think it was like 87 and 88. Or even 88, 89. I know they repeated. They went 2 years in a row. But by the time the mid-90s got here, like that style, really in the early 90s, once Chicago was able to get past them in the playoffs, they ushered that style out. You couldn't just foul people the way they was fouling people. So, and because it was so boring, all those guys had to change the way they played. And Dennis Rodman he perfected it. Like once by the time he got to Chicago, Dennis Rodman perfected. Like he just was an intelligent ball player, and he knew how to get in your head and agitate. He was more of an agitator than he was like more of a that bad boy style. So Dennis Rodman probably could play today because he was an intelligent ball player. He was more of an agitator by the time he got to the Chicago Bulls. He wasn't, foul. It looked hard. Some of the stuff he did just looked hard and looked outrageous, but it was nothing like what he would do in Detroit, and what Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn, they wouldn't be able to play, but it was crazy. Well, maybe they would have played because you had other guys in the league who played hard like that. Like Anthony Mason for New York, for the Knicks. And you had Charles Oakley, who played with Michael Jordan in the early days. He was physical like that. Who else was it? Even Karl Malone was a big physical ball player. All of those guys, just as time went on, they just adjusted their game. So I think that they would be able to play. They would make the adjustment, at least at the defensive end. But I never thought that Bill Laimbeer or Rick Mahorn, I didn't think they was very good offensive ball players. So that probably would be the biggest thing to me. Like, I think they could adjust their game defensively, but offensively, they wouldn't bring enough to the table for them to be, to have an impact. So, yeah, I don't think, I think they would adjust, but I don't think that Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn would have made it like in the mid 90s, because they didn't offensively, they just didn't contribute enough. It was enough for them to contribute defensively, because you had Isaiah and Joe Dumars, Vinny. He was, all those guys was scoring. They was there to get the points, and then Bill Laimbeer and the rest of the guys, John Sally and all those guys, and they just was there for defense. So yeah, they would have adjusted to this day and age. But other than that, it wouldn't have had too much to offer at the offense. It's not like those guys was like who's the guy that got Draymond Green? Like Draymond Green, you could run Golden State basically run their offense through Draymond, and Draymond will hit that wide open 3-pointer. I don't know about Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer, how much you'll be able to run your offense through those guys. It was just solely there for to beat people down, and that's what they did. They won 2 championships doing that. So yeah, but yeah, those fouls that they gave up, back in the day, it was enough to get you an assault charge, definitely. But let me know what you think. I want to know, do you think that those guys, and I want to include Rick Mahorn in that, right? do you think that Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, and Dennis Rodman would be able to play in today's game? In today's NBA, rather. And so with that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.